Hello, on this video, we're going to talk to you about the amount that you can spend on your law firm marketing. Now, if you joined us on Monday, we talked about the first part of it, of knowing your average lifetime value of a client. So if you know the value of each client over the lifetime of that client, then you're going to be able to back into the amount that you're able to spend to acquire that client. Now, if you didn't get a chance to watch the video on Monday, that's okay. You can watch, we're going to put the link up on this video so you can link back to that prior video and watch it. But today we're going to dive into the full formula on exactly figuring out how much you can spend on your law firm marketing. I'm Richard Martindale, and I'm the CEO and host of Martindale Live, but I'm the CEO of Martindale Digital. And I've been an attorney for almost 25 years, and I've been in digital marketing for approximately 10 years. Now, I've run an agency dealing with local market businesses and helping them with websites and social media, but we strictly focus now on law firms and attorneys and helping them with their digital marketing online so that they can get clients using automation and the internet. It's the easiest way to get clients, and it's a way that you can set it up so it's automated and it runs for you. But let's dive into the presentation right now and get right to the slides here. And I'm going to make them a little bit bigger on my screen so you can see them. But from the standpoint of how much can you spend, let's go back and review a little bit from what we talked about on Monday. Now, as I said to you, the business that can spend the most, or in this case, the law firm that can spend the most to acquire a client will win. And you think about that. If a law firm that knows their numbers and knows exactly how much they can spend on their marketing, if they can reach that threshold and win the client and still make money, they're going to be the ones, the one that can spend the most is obviously the one that's in the end going to be able to win the client. So you have to know your numbers, and that's what we're going to talk about. And it doesn't matter if you're a bankruptcy attorney, corporate attorney, personal injury attorney, malpractice attorney. The practice area matters because some cases may be worth more than others, but don't think about it from the standpoint of digital marketing that, oh, if I'm a patent attorney, it's not going to work for me. I can't get clients from the internet. That's a myth that people might have told you, but don't believe it. You can get clients online no matter what practice area you're in. So instead of thinking about, how much can you spend, we talked about thinking about how much is your client worth, because that's the first part of the equation. And we went through the things that go into the lifetime value. It's not just the direct payments that they're making, but also the referrals, testimonials for marketing. But that lifetime value, and in the example we used before of $100,000, that would be the ceiling that you could spend on your marketing. Now, we'll talk about the various stages of law firms a little bit, and you may be more aggressive depending on the stage of your law firm. So you may be more aggressive in your marketing spending because you may be growing and building, but we'll talk about that in a few minutes here. So the formula for spending, what you can pay to acquire a customer, is the average client value minus what you want to keep. Now, in the previous video on Monday, I had it a little bit reconfigured, but basically this is the formula. Because if you think about it, if you know from our previous example that the average client value is $100,000 over their lifetime, you need to know your numbers as far as, okay, what's my overhead? What do I want to take home as far as pay? What kind of profits do I want? You have to know your numbers. And if you know how much a client's worth and you know what you need to keep as far as making payments for employees, payroll, overhead, rent, then the amount that's left over is basically what you can pay to acquire a customer or a client for your law firm. Now, It may be, obviously, you don't want to max it out, but you need to think about all those costs that go into acquiring a customer because that's what you need to factor. Now, a lot of people, when they're thinking about the cost to acquire a client, they think about the hard costs. If you're advertising on TV and maybe radio, you're going to obviously think about the cost that um, what it costs you to produce those TV spots or radio spots, the editing that goes into it, the actual pay that you have to, the payments that you have to make to the TV stations and radio stations to place those ads. Or if you're doing online advertising, you're gonna think about what are my costs per click on Google, or what am I paying on Facebook and LinkedIn to get leads into my law firm. These are hard costs that are pretty easy to monitor and think about. And obviously, as we talked about, you're going to have the creative costs, the graphic designers, the video editors, the production companies that are putting these pieces together. But a lot of times people don't think about their own time, and especially attorneys. We do value our time immensely because obviously we generally bill by the hour, we get paid based on our time. So you need to think about that from the standpoint of what kind of time are you and your staff putting into the acquisition of a client. And oftentimes I see attorneys that let that slip through. They're like, oh, well, I spent, 3 hours a week going to networking events. Well, if you're, charging out at $500 an hour, for example, that would be $1,500 that a lot of people don't factor in, but you need to factor that in, and you do need to budget your time as well as your money. Now, we talked about the fact that it may vary on what you want to spend depending on the stage of your law firm. So if you're a brand new law firm and you're growing and scaling and you're just trying to get clients in the door, then you may spend right at the high end of your threshold on what you can spend in order to get clients in the door, get those, revenues generating. And if you're more established and conservative, then maybe you're going to, pare down. But if you don't know your numbers, you're not going to know what you can actually spend. And oftentimes, attorneys and law firms think about, they see a bigger number, let's say $10,000 to acquire a client, and they may be saying, wow. But if they really think about it and they think about the average lifetime value of those clients, oftentimes they're more willing to spend the money because they see it as an investment, as you should. You should see marketing cost as just an investment into the future. But if you're, more aggressive, and oftentimes a lot of attorneys talk about personal injury firms and their aggressive advertising and, pushing the boundaries and pushing the limits, but they understand the numbers game with regard to acquiring clients and the value of those clients. So they can be more aggressive because they understand the numbers and then can use those numbers to their advantage. So the key is to know your numbers, and that's how you're going to know how much you can spend. If you know the average lifetime value of what a client means to your firm, and you track accurately the costs to acquire the client, you're going to see that oftentimes what you want to keep, you're keeping more than you probably should be. Not that you shouldn't be keeping the money that comes into your firm, but I think oftentimes when I'm talking with law firms and attorneys and they really start looking granularly at those numbers, they understand that they can spend more on the cost to acquire the client. So that category 2, they're often not allocating enough money there because they don't see the true value of item number 1, which is the average lifetime value. And I'll just give you a quick example to end the video. But if you think about, if I told you that you could spend $25,000 to acquire a client worth $100,000 and you can do it on a consistent basis, would you do it? Most attorneys and law firms say, sure, if I can spend 25 and know I'm going to acquire a client worth 100,000, then sure, that's a 4x return on my money and they're going to spend that. But the problem is you can't say yes to that if you don't know your numbers. So the key is knowing the actual value over the lifetime of each client that comes into your firm. And if you have different practice areas, you're probably going to have different values for different clients. So knowing those numbers, and then when you come to someone like Martindale Digital, my firm, or another marketing agency that you want to work with, if you know your numbers, you're going to be able to have an educated discussion on how much you can actually spend to acquire the clients. And that gives that marketing agency the ability to know, okay, we have a budget here on what we can spend. And oftentimes we are able to get clients for less than the value of, what an average lifetime value of a client is and what the budget is to spend. So know your numbers and then have an educated discussion so you know exactly how much you can spend to acquire the clients. And don't be afraid to spend that money. It's an investment in the future of your law firm. Well, that's all we have for today. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you need more resources, you can look below this video and find some links. We've got some workbooks and handouts if you need some resources on how to automate your firm or how to know who your ideal client is. Look for those links and download them today. And I look forward to seeing you again tomorrow. We did have a little snafu. We weren't live yesterday because we had an internet outage all day, but we're generally live at 5 pretty much every day, 5 o'clock Central. So I look forward to seeing you again soon on our next broadcast. Thanks so much, and I hope you have a blessed day.